Hey everyone, of course, back here with Tony. We're going to be going into zoonotic diseases as well as the testing and the tech that they actually have behind them. A lot of crazy things happening recently, Tony. Trump got COVID, as well as you got schools basically across North America closing down. Even some, states looking at making masks mandatory inside. But I wanted to kick it off. Let's do a very high level kind of science, but also about the testing.
So zoonotic diseases are diseases that infect animals, but they're able to cross species and also infect humans. So 80% or more of all the infectious diseases, they're actually zoonotic in nature. In other words, they come from animals, they infect humans, and they basically use an intermediate host that will allow them to refine the genomic machine, so they can actually then, become, they can target, humans. What we're facing right now with COVID, with the COVID virus, is actually a pretty common situation. Most of the zoonotic diseases, they're actually transmitted by, at least within the coronavirus family, they're transmitted through an infection that starts in bats. And then from bats, they can infect an intermediate host. In this particular case, the intermediate host is still unclear, but it seems to be the pangolin, anteater that is a pretty common mammals in Asia, and then they jump into humans. So, and in the past, other zoonotic diseases, they used different hosts. Like, for example, the plague was transmitted through rats. Some of the influenza viruses are transmitted through pigs. The other type of bacteria, they are transmitted through birds. So all this situation that is happening now is something that is a very recurrent event over thousands of years. So it's nothing unusual in terms of the spreading of these viruses, and we need to get prepared for more of the same in the future. Now, this coronavirus has been particularly tough because we have not experienced anything like that for at least 200 years. The Spanish flu was about 100 years ago. This, in a way, I think it's much more extent type of infection than the Spanish flu. So far, it has not reached the level of mortality that the Spanish flu virus has actually reached. But this is an evolving situation, so we need to get prepared for anything that is coming our way.
So interesting. And yes, obviously can transfer from animals to humans. You touched on the Spanish flu. A lot of these are kind of, members of the same family. Now, talk to me a little bit more about GeneThera and your guys' solution to this problem. Obviously you're talking about, and you mentioned even, COVID doesn't look like it's going away. We need to definitely do faster and better testing. So on that note, did you want to kind of introduce a little bit, especially high level, on what you guys are bringing to the table?
Yes, I'll be happy to. Actually, there was an article today from Bloomberg saying that the only way out for an American comeback is actually better and faster testing. And that's what we've been working on for now, the better part of the last 17 years. We have targeted zoonotic diseases. We haven't really started, targeting zoonotic diseases recently. We go back a long way. So the solution of the problem here is simple. In order for us, for this pandemic to be, successfully, eliminated, we need to have better testing, and we have to have also a way to track, this virus, and we need to standardize, the testing. Right now, we actually have a tremendous amount of confusion because the FDA is given emergency authorization to just about everybody is applying for it. We have 365 companies with 365 tests. It cannot be done that way. You know, the key in science is standardizing the technology. And that's what we're aiming for. Our technology allows exactly that. We have a system that we developed, a platform that we developed is called MORAP, that stands for Molecular, Robotics, and Artificial Intelligence, you know, platform. So what MORAP does allows, you know, faster, you know, testing, which we call it ultra high throughput testing. We're using, you know, the most advanced robotic technology. So each of this MORAP system is able to process 100,000 samples per day per system. So if a lab has 2 or 3 of these systems, you can actually do 200,000 to 300,000 samples per day. This is the most advanced system that's been developed so far. There's nothing out there that matches it. Other companies have developed automated systems, but they're not really getting to the level that we're getting because either they don't use what we call integrated, you know, technology platform that allows all this equipment to work together to achieve this kind of hyper, you know, throughput, or they're not tracking, or they're not applying artificial intelligence, you know, to track the virus and understand and predict how this virus is spreading. So we're definitely on the state of the art, on the cusp of technology here. And
so tell me, Tony, when you're saying faster, that's great. How much like if I did a test today, you know, at 4 p.m., what time, you know, am I getting a result back? You know, you talk about being faster and more testing. You know, what's the turnaround on this?
The turnaround is just less than 24 hours. Mm-hmm. In 24 hours, you can process, you know, 100,000 samples and get the results. So if it's at 4 o'clock p.m., you know, by 4 o'clock p.m. the next day, you get the results. And actually, the way we're doing it, that you can get the results in the comfort of your house, you know, by having an app or a cell phone or a computer where you can log in and get the results. So we're not talking about having, you know, the thing here is that, you know, they've been talking about 10-minute test and all this kind of stuff. A molecular test, it cannot, there's no way right now it can be done in 10 minutes accurately.
What's the current turnaround, Tony? Curious. So yours is 24 hours. What's the current testing turnaround?
For molecular test is about 2 or 3 days. And also the other thing that we're looking at doing here is not only test patients or people, this system allows a very sensitive and specific way to test, you know, wastewater. Wastewater is the key to track this virus. It's because when you test people, you test individuals. When you test wastewater, you test an entire community. And by testing the entire community, you have a better idea how this virus is spreading. So, and then by applying machine learning and artificial intelligence and machine learning algorithms, you're able to really design a map of how the virus is spreading. And you can also, not only you can tell how the virus is spreading, but you can do a time lapse from the beginning to the point that you're doing the testing. And you can do this thing every day. So basically, you can tell exactly how this virus is spreading. And this is a huge advantage because now you have a way to track it, and you have a way to also understand if the virus is getting, you know, is it better or is it getting worse. So this is the entire key of the process. Until we apply this kind of technologies, we will not be able to come out of this, you know, pandemic.
Well, and I think it's really interesting. You know, you're onto something. Wastewater, obviously, to me, I always thought was interesting. Imagine there's 12 buildings, and you can test the wastewater of each. You know, you can tell, hey, is there COVID in this building or not? And instead of quarantining every single building, you can just target the ones that obviously have COVID. I think that's extremely interesting. We don't need to have this global lockdown. We could have just closed down the areas that had COVID. To me, that's extremely interesting, and you're definitely onto something.
This is you're absolutely right. I mean, locking down everybody, in a very undiscriminated way is not the way to go, because it creates a situation that we have right now. People get frustrated, get angry, get violent and everything, because you're confining them to a very small, space. So everybody has, cabin fever. So that's the reason why we're having the problems that we're having. But having this targeted lockdown or this targeted, quarantine, it creates a situation where this thing can handle a lot better. And that's why it's critical. In fact, I mean, we have developed a very unique concept here, to where we can go directly to this wastewater plants and doing samples direct and doing testing directly at on location. And this can be accomplished by using mobile labs. Mobile labs is the key. Creating also, so there will be basically this network that we are developing is comprised of two systems. One is a stationary lab where you can do the hyper, throughput. You can test, hundreds of thousands of samples per day. And then you have these mobile labs where obviously you're not testing patients, so you can reduce the amount of testing that you can do, but always using the same technology, application of robotics, artificial intelligence. And you can test 2,000 to 4,000 samples per day, and you can do it on the regular basis, almost on the daily basis. And that is clearly the advantage that testing, wastewater is giving you, because the virus is actually, it's not only a respiratory virus, it's actually a systemic virus. So when people get infected, they shed very large amount of virus in the water. Also, the other thing that most people need to understand, that one of the big reservoirs of infectious particles is actually coming from children. Children are the big spreaders of this infection, because for the most part they're asymptomatic. They're able to spread the virus without getting infected. And also, at the beginning of this pandemic, there was a misconception that children, do not get infected. Children, they do get infected, and they get infected in large quantities, but they have a slightly different immunological system than adults. So they have the ability to respond to the virus in a different way, in a less aggressive way compared to adults. So it means that by doing that, they're able to, quote unquote, coexist with the virus. And at that point, what happens is, as they get infected, they remain for the most part asymptomatic, and they infected everybody else. And this is actually, there are some articles showing that, there are some studies showing that, and this is actually coming up from studies done through the wastewater system, showing that children, they can actually shed a lot more viruses than adults.
Yeah. Well, interesting. Look, I didn't want to get too deep into the weeds. Still pretty cool. So, explanation of the disease, and then, the testing, how you guys are doing it. Obviously, wastewater, I think is cool. We're talking COVID today because it's hot, but also, I always think 2, 3, 5, 20 years from now, who knows, another example of COVID happens. And, instead we're able to really pinpoint, okay, where is it? And, that's kind of what you say. And that's how we get to the next step, is better testing and better tracking is the important parts. Anything else that you wanted to add on before we kind of close things off?
Yeah, I just wanted to emphasize what we just said. This is not just a spare the moment type of thing. We're building a system for the ages. I mean, we are ushering in a new era, which is the era, the era of machines, artificial intelligence. So we need to apply these technologies to defend ourselves, because this is not going to be the last pandemic we're going to face. Actually, there's probably another pandemic lurking there in the dark. So what we're building is something that is just will prevent us to experience what we've been experiencing so far. So this network of labs, this type of concept, it is the future of fighting pandemics. And until we learn how to do it efficiently, we will be at the same level that cavemen were during the Neolithic. They would shout at the sky, when the sun will disappear, because they didn't understand when an eclipse was. Now, obviously, we're going to have to go to the level to where will be, the way where, in the future, we will face, this type of pandemics and try to avoid the disaster that we have faced, so far.